should be the third video you work. You can do whatever you can do whatever you want. But you notice we're kind of going in a sort of step-by-step process here, right? So I had you watch the Quick Start webinar. That's what I recommend you watch first, the web class. And that's the high-level view of all the aspects of the business, right? And then I had you watch the Understanding the Search Options video, where we take you through the search dashboard. We give you a tour of how all that works. Now, what this is what happens after you hit search. After you hit search and you've got a list of results in front of you, how do you decide which books to buy and which books to pass on? Okay, that's what this video is about. And there's an actual very, very linear 10-step process. And don't get freaked out. Don't be like, whoa, there's 10 steps. There's 10, but it's really simple. A couple of them are optional. It's really, you can do all of this in like 10 seconds when you get good at it, okay? So the first answer to the question of how do you know if a book is good or not is you can always ask me. Now, I don't recommend you doing this instead of going through this video, but this is a service that I offer. You can email me the ISBN of any book that you're considering buying that you're not sure about, and I will personally tell you if I would buy the book and if I'd pass on it. And even though I don't know everything and I don't have a crystal ball, I'm really good at giving my opinion about things, okay? So what I'll do is I'll give you some analysis, and don't hesitate to reach out. Only thing I ask is that you just send like one at a time, and email, don't text, and that kind of stuff, just so I could make sure I give you a really thorough response, okay? So here is the golden rule of profit when it comes to determining if a book is a good buy or not, okay? This is literally like the simplest possible definition of a good book when it comes to online book arbitrage. A good book is any book that has a strong demand, that also has a big gap between the cheapest copy overall, the price you're going to buy, and the cheapest FBA price. You could sum up this entire business in this slide. However, it's not quite that simple, right? Because oftentimes you're going to be pricing higher than the cheapest FBA price. But the simplest possible version of online book arbitrage is what you see right here in the slide. But with that said, this is no substitute for doing a thorough analysis of every book. And again, I want to be clear, when I say thorough, I mean like 20 seconds. I'm not talking about pulling out, like a big chart and with pens and like in your war room or something, right? Okay, so what makes a good buy? Okay, so it comes down to three things. This is really simple, and I'm going to go into each of these more in depth here in a second. But whether or not a book is a, quote, good book to buy comes down to these three things. It really is this simple. Number one is demand, how quickly the book will sell. Number two is cost. And number three is profits. And each of these is going to be unique to you, right? You may have different needs when it comes to turnover, when it comes to cost, and when it comes to the profits you want to see, okay? So, but just understand that all the data that we're going to look at, everything can be broken down and distilled down into trying to determine these three things. Just keep in mind this 10-step process I'm about to take you through. All these things we're doing come down to determining these three things. Okay, demand, cost, profits. Okay, that's it. That's the entire blueprint for whether or not a book is good or not. So with that said, let's get into it. Step number one is actually what happens before you do a search, which is to choose your needs. This is actually, if you're tempted to kind of go, okay, skip to the actionable stuff, this is really, really important. You cannot skip this, okay? So you have to decide, how quickly do you want your books to turn over, right? It's not just a matter of the sooner the better. Because one of the things I say is everything good with online book arbitrage comes at a cost. So if you want a book that's going to sell for you really, really quickly, that's a book you're probably going to have to pay more for, right? So because there's a give and take with everything. So seriously ask yourself, like, do you need the books to fly out the door in the first couple of weeks, or are you willing to wait a little bit longer to get a sale? So these are important questions to know. How much are you willing to spend? Again, of course, everybody says, well, I want to spend the cheapest amount possible. Okay, that can work, but you're going to spend a lot more time searching for books if you're trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel and pay $5 or $10 for books. And not only that, your profit margins are going to be a lot smaller, right? So these are actually really important questions. What kind of ROI or return on your investment do you need to see? What kind of profits do you need to see per book? For every $20 you put in, Do you need to see $2 back, or do you need to see another $20? Do you want to double your money? Some people are content with 20% returns, right? It totally is totally up to you, but you have to make that decision. And the reason we're deciding all this up front is so that you're not stopping and having to go through this mental equation of checking all these boxes every single time you look at a book. You want to make a decision and stick to it, and that will make this analysis process go like 10 times faster. Next up, will you ever price higher than the lowest FBA price? Now, if you're new to this business, you're like, how am I supposed to know? Like, what does that mean? And that's kind of a turnover question because and it's a pricing strategy question. I'll actually give you a simple formula here in just a minute for exactly how to make this decision, but that's an important one you have to answer. And will you buy acceptable condition books? Now, acceptable condition is the worst Amazon condition that there is, right? So a lot of people just decide, hey, I'm never going to purchase an acceptable condition book. The reason being that, a lot of the time they're too damaged to sell. There's just like multiple reasons. You don't want to court negative feedback from people when you sell a book that's severely damaged. But then a lot of people find this to be an undiscovered or untapped gold mine. That acceptable condition books oftentimes are actually good condition or even better, and they're misgraded. And it's just there's a lot of debate as to whether you should ever purchase an acceptable condition book. So that's a decision you want to make, right? And we have all this training within Zen Arbitrage that will help you make these decisions. So I'm not going to go like too in depth into each one, but these are probably the 5 things you need to know before you start searching for books. Okay, and all these are really simple to answer, right? So when it comes to how fast you want your books to sell, you really have 3 options here. I always tell people, keep this stuff really simple. Don't turn this into a big chart with a whiteboard with a bunch of arrows. Okay, just keep it really simple. So I would say choose one of these 3. High demand is books ranked better than 100K. Remember, we have these sales rank, 12-month average sales rank displayed for every book in Zen Arbitrage. And if you're doing it manually in Amazon, you can see the current rank for every book on Amazon. Okay, so better than 100,000 would be what I consider to be a high demand book. A book with strong demand, but not super high, is 100,000 to 500,000. And books that have average demand, for lack of a better term, would be 500,000 to 1 million sales rank. Okay, and again, this is all really easy. There's just literally a number next to every book in Zen Arbitrage that tells you exactly what the rank is. So make a decision, right? Do you want to only buy books ranked better than 100,000? Do you want to buy books from 1 to 500,000 or 1 to a million? Okay, now obviously, the biggest issue here is that the more relaxed you are with these standards, the longer it will take for your books to sell, right? Okay, the second thing you have to decide is how much are you willing to spend per book. So I'm going to give you 3 options here. Just go ahead and pick one. You want to spend less than $20 per book, $20 to $40 per book, or you're willing to spend any amount to make a profit, okay? And it's totally cool if you want to just say, hey, I really just want to focus on books for $15. You will spend a lot longer looking for profitable books, and you will get a lot lower returns per book, but you'll be able to buy more books as well, assuming you have capital restraints, right? Okay, so next up is what kind of returns do you need per book? What kind of ROI do you need? Do you want to get less than 50% returns, 50 to 75%, or over 75% in terms of for every dollar you get in, how much do you want back? Do you want 50 cents back, 50 to 75 cents, or more than 75 cents? And obviously the more the better, right? But again, there's the give and take, so you have to decide. But for me, this is mostly a question of what will motivate you. Like if you sold a book, you'll say you spent $20 on a book, and you got $30 back, right? Does that do you feel excited by that? Are you like, yes, I made $10? Most people I think would say yes, absolutely. That I get excited by spending $20 and getting 30 back. Some people, they need to double their money or triple it for that matter, right? So it just kind of depends like what keeps you motivated. Okay, so next up, will you ever price higher than the lowest FBA price? Now, this is really important because this will dramatically impact how you visually interpret the search results in Zen Arbitrage and what you exactly hone in and look for, okay? And so this is really, really key. I'm going to give you a simple formula for making this decision here in just a minute. But just keep in mind, like, if you match the lowest FBA price always, that is the simplest pricing formula. You can basically just shut off your brain and just follow that and make money, right? So it really is that simple. But you're also going to leave a lot of money on the table. You're going to miss a lot of profit if you're profitable books if you're not willing to go, hey, I'm willing to price higher and wait for the lowest offer to sell out. The reason this is so important is that in Zen Arbitrage, we show you the lowest FBA offer for every book, but we don't show you the second lowest, and we don't show you the third lowest. So if you want to price higher, it's going to mean a little bit more clicking as you're analyzing books. Does that make sense? Okay, so next up, will you buy acceptable condition books? Now, I kind of outlined this earlier and what that dilemma looks like. Here's my suggestion. Be flexible, okay? Don't be rigid about this. Don't just say yes or no. Scrutinize books on a case-by-case basis. There are certain books that are like, oh, it's water damaged, and the seller has an 80% positive feedback score, which is really bad. And there's other acceptable condition books where the seller has a 98% positive feedback score, and the condition description doesn't even really indicate the book is that damaged, and which is a good sign the book is actually in good or very good condition. And that happens quite a bit. So be flexible and scrutinize it on a book-by-book basis. Don't just write off that entire condition wholesale, right? Okay, so now that you made a decision, you've chosen your needs, right? You have your standards. You can shut off your brain now. You no longer have to think about these things because you made your decision, okay? So now you can do a search in Zen Arbitrage. Now's the time you actually dig in and start searching. Okay, so you do a search, and this isn't about how to search, right? That's a separate video. But you do a search, and you hit the search button, and it brings up a bunch of results. Okay, so how do you analyze those results? Okay, the first thing you look for in the search results is in the FBA column, is there a magnifying glass instead of a number? Now, I don't want to make this too complex, but the magnifying glass indicates that there is no FBA offer that Amazon is sharing with us, which either means there is no FBA offer at all, which is huge. That's always a good thing, right? Because that means you can set whatever price you want. Or most of the time, it actually means there's no FBA offer in the lowest 20 in terms of price. And that's a limitation where Amazon simply won't share FBA data if it's not in the bottom 20, okay? Which is still a good thing because it means whatever the FBA price is, it's probably really, really high. So if there's a magnifying glass, you have to click over to know anything. So you always have to click over the magnifying glass offer. So that's number one. Number two is, does the lowest FBA price allow room for profit? So assuming, which is the case most of the time, there will be a number there, and then you simply compare to the price you're going to pay, either used or new, whether you're buying a used or new book, to the lowest FBA offer. Okay, is there enough room for profit? If you buy low and sell high, you're literally just comparing two numbers. Is there enough room for profit? And then if the rank is good enough, it's a really high demand book. Remember I said, if it's better than 100,000 maybe or whatever, do I want to click on this to investigate the higher priced FBA offers? Because remember, Zen Arbitrage only shows you the lowest price FBA offer. So if you're going to price higher for books that are really, really high demand, then you're going to need to click over to see what those competing FBA offers are. The lowest might be, 30. The second lowest might be 45, right? You can price somewhere in between, something like that. Okay, so step number 3, remember the first step was to set our standards. Step number 2 was to visually scan the results in Zen Arbitrage. Step number 3 is decide how you want to price your offer. Now, step number 1 here is to simply look at the lowest FBA offer and remember that number. Okay, so that's going to be the number that's the most important number to kind of keep in your mind as you go through this process. Now we decide, based on rank, how do we want to price this offer relative to that lowest FBA offer, that number we just memorized. How do we want to price relative to that? So based on competing prices, how do you want to position yourself? Now here's some rough guidelines, okay? Now you don't have to accept this as gospel. These are just some rough guidelines. If you want to keep things really, really simple, I recommend you follow this formula. You can kind of get more nuanced as you get more experience, but if you're just starting, this is a totally good formula to work with. Okay, so if the rank is better than 50,000, mean 1 to 50,000, plan on pricing third or fourth in line, meaning if there are, the lowest FBA is 30, and the next one's 45, and the next one's 50, and the next one's 60. Maybe price somewhere between 50 and 60, right? Third or fourth in line is a good rule of thumb. If the rank is 50 to 100,000, price second or third in line. And if the rank is 100,000 to 400,000, price second in line. And if anything beyond that, always match the lowest FBA offer. Okay? Those are some rough guidelines. You can tweak those as you get more experience. That's just what I tell people when they're getting started, just to kind of keep things really simple. Because I'm so fixated on keeping things really simple for people when they get started, I can make this even simpler for you. Instead of going off that list I just gave you, if you're like, that's too much to remember, totally cool, just go with this. Always match the lowest FBA offer no matter what. That's formula number 1. Or formula number 2, is to price second lowest, in other words, price between the second or third lowest, if the rank is better than 100,000, so 1 to 100,000. In all other instances, just match the lowest FBA offer. Okay, so that's an even simpler way to go about it. Two other options, again, if you're so new, you're like, this is too much clutter, I just want, okay, cool, just pick one of these. And again, the simplest pricing formula, period, is always just going to be to always match the lowest FBA offer. I would recommend, if you can handle the slightest amount of detail, I would recommend going with the second option here, okay? Okay, so now we're on to step number 4. This is where we're clicking over to view the FBA offers. This is where we're finally actually scrutinizing our FBA competition. Remember, the FBA offers are the prices we're competing against, right? We're buying at the cheap copy, the cheapest offer overall, the non-FBA offer. That's easy, right? We don't have to think about that. We're just buying the cheapest offer that's within our condition standards. If we're not doing acceptable, we go to the lowest good or whatever. But point is, that part's easy. Now, what takes a little more thought is how we're going to position ourselves relative to our competition. Okay, so remember, we're competing against FBA offers only. So ask yourself, how would I price this book right now, and is this book profitable? So scenario number 1, which is the best case scenario, is that if you simply bought at the cheap price and resold at the lowest FBA price, which will usually be displayed in Zen Arbitrage, then that alone would get you profit. In other words, if you didn't price any higher, you didn't do any other scrutiny, that you literally just compare the two numbers, and the lowest FBA price will allow you to profit. When you buy at the cheap price, you can simply move on to the next step. You're already done, because that's already a profitable book, okay? So we can already move on. Now, let's just say the lowest FBA offer does not allow room for profit. Well, the second scenario here that still would make a book profitable is if you price second in line, it's profitable, and the book has high enough demand that you can get away with this. Remember, we're only pricing higher than the lowest FBA offer when the demand is decently high. Okay, so I gave you that chart a second ago, but this is a second scenario where you can actually price second in line and reasonably expect to get a sale. Scenario number 3 is that maybe there's no money to be made even if you're pricing second in line, but pricing third, fourth, or fifth in line allows you room for profit, and the book has really, really high demand, so you can actually get away with this. Okay, so those are 3 scenarios. Now, again, you don't move on to the next scenario until the second one has not, the second standard, the one before it has not been matched. So again, if scenario number 1, if that's what you're looking at, just move on. You don't have to worry about the rest of it, right? Scenario number 2, just move on. You don't have to worry about number 3. Okay, so and this is what it looks like when you click over to actually view FBA offers on Amazon. You can see, Zen Arbitrage gives you a link, so it just shows you the FBA competition. So you'll click over and you'll see this, and you'll only see FBA offers. Okay, step number 5 is to look at the condition of the lowest merchant fulfilled offer. Remember, the lowest merchant fulfilled offer, meaning non-FBA offer, that's the book you're going to buy, right? So there's not much you have to do there. I said a second ago you can shut off your brain when it comes to that. The only exception is you do have to actually look at the condition and make sure the book and the condition description as provided by the seller, and make sure that book is actually sellable, right? So you want to ask yourself, is the lowest merchant fulfilled offer a book that you can resell? Is it damaged? Is it a book you wouldn't sell, or is it a book you would sell? Is it acceptable condition? If so, refer to your standards you said at the beginning, which is either no, I'm never going to buy acceptable, or yes, I am on a case-by-case basis, one of those two. And then look for any other miscellaneous issues. Is it an ebook? Sometimes shady sellers will do weird stuff like, they'll try to sell you an ebook, and when you buy, they email you a link or something, just like shady stuff that sellers do. So just kind of literally do this in 3 seconds. Just take a glance at the condition description. Make sure nothing shady is going on. Make sure it's not an international edition. There's really not many ways you can screw this up. Okay, step number 6, and we're going through these really fast now because this is where we've already really, honestly, the hard part's already way behind us, right? So, and the hardest part of a book analysis process, honestly, is really just picking what price you want to list it for. And remember what I said, if you're just like, I don't want to think, Peter Valley, I don't want to shut off my brain for all this. You can do that. You can just simply choose to always match the lowest FBA offer, and you have effectively evaded the hardest part of this entire process. Okay, so step number 6 is to check if the book is restricted. Now, this is an unfortunate reality of selling on Amazon, is that if you're selling textbooks, and this really only applies to textbooks, if you're selling textbooks, Amazon has certain restrictions in place. So Amazon has decided that certain sellers cannot sell certain textbooks until they have met certain standards. They don't reveal what those standards are, but basically it's like you hit a certain sales threshold, or you've been selling for a certain amount of time, then you're allowed to sell more books. But if you're just getting started in particular, your restrictions are going to be pretty severe. There's going to be a lot of textbooks you're simply not allowed to list because Amazon just doesn't allow them. Okay, so you have 2 options here. You can use our check restriction link. It's next to each book in Zen Arbitrage. That's the image you see right there on the right side of the slide. And once you click that, there's just one other click you have to make, and you'll know instantly whether or not you're allowed to sell that book. Number 2 is actually a lot easier. You can use a Chrome extension called Check Permission. Now, I'm not getting paid for this at all. It's just a great tool that I like to let people know about. And what it does is a Chrome extension. So when you click over to Amazon, which you're already going to do anyway because you have to look for the prices and so forth, when you click over to Amazon, it will tell you right there at the top of the page if you're allowed to sell that book or not. Don't ask me how it works. It's magic. It's weird, but it's an amazing tool. Okay, so now you've cleared those hurdles. You found a good book. You found a book that you know is going to be profitable. You check the restrictions. You know how you're going to price the book, all that stuff. Now we move on to pricing history, okay? Now this is where Zen Arbitrage is worth its weight in gold. Now we do this using a tool called Keepa, and I think most of you probably know about Keepa. If you don't, totally cool. It's a free Chrome extension, or parts of it are free. There's certain parts you have to pay for, but you can install it for free right now. And what it does is it embeds pricing history charts on every single page in Amazon, so you can see all the ups and downs of the prices going back a year, and actually oftentimes more than a year, basically the entire time the book has been in Keepa's system. It's really, really powerful and allows you to see pricing trends and know, hey, is this book priced more than its historical average? Is it priced less than its historical average? Am I getting a deal here? High, obviously that would mean you're paying too much. Is it right around its historical average? What's the trends? Is the book trending upward? Is it trending downwards with price? Like you can glean a lot of useful data from these pricing history charts. And Zen Arbitrage actually embeds Keepa charts in our search results to make this really, really easy for you. Okay, so this is just like a no-brainer. So it takes all the guesswork out of it, makes everything really simple, and you don't have to leave Zen Arbitrage to get access to this stuff. So the question is, am I paying more or less than I should? That's fundamentally the question you're asking when you're looking at pricing history. You just want to make sure you're not paying like way more than you should. I mean, a deal's a deal. Like a profitable book is a profitable book, no matter what historical price is. But sometimes I'll look at a book and I'll go, man, this, the average price for this book is 20, and right now it's 35. And it's like, yeah, I'll still make money off this book, but man, I think I want to wait for it to go back to $20 or whatever, right? I'll do that sometimes if I see the price is significantly higher than its average. So look at the Keepa charts and clear that hurdle. Step number 8 is to check the sales rank history. Now, this is another chart offered by Keepa, but here's the thing. Keepa charges you to see these charts. You have to pay Keepa to get access to these charts through the normal Keepa extension. However, we show you the charts 100% for free. We actually show you the Keepa charts that you have to pay for otherwise free in Zen Arbitrage. You hover over any single book in Zen Arbitrage and a little chart pops up just like you see here that shows its historical sales rank data. And specifically what that means, if you're new to the concept, it just simply means what's its sales history. How often is the book selling? You can see all of the sales history in the sales rank chart. You can see when the demand spikes. You can see what time of year the demand plummets. You can see, what the trends are. Is the demand going up? Is the demand going down? This is all stuff you can glean. And again, you get these charts embedded totally for free in Zen Arbitrage. Step number 9 is to check bookfinder.com. Now, this is where Zen Arbitrage makes things 1,000 times easier yet again. Now, if you don't know what Bookfinder is a website that aggregates data from over 40 other book selling sites, basically any book anyone would ever make a purchase on anywhere on the internet, and shows you the cheapest copy and then the second cheapest and so on. So what Zen Arbitrage has done and automated is it allows you to hover over any search result in our search dashboard, and it actually brings up a pop-up window showing you bookfinder.com and showing you the cheapest copy anywhere on the internet. And I'll tell you, it's insane how much money you can save, right? There was a time when Amazon was the cheapest copy like 90% of the time, and that has dropped to like maybe like 60. Like you're saving money buying on sites other than Amazon probably like 40% of the time. It's crazy. And so this is like a key part of the step is you can oftentimes get a book for, $5, $10, $20 less on other websites than you can on Amazon. Okay, so it's crucial. Okay, so now you've done everything, right? You found a profitable book. You know what you're going to price it for. You've checked your restrictions. You've gone through this, that, and the other thing. You've done every single step. You found the cheapest copy anywhere on the internet. You know what you're going to sell it for. You know what you're going to buy it for. Now you just plug those numbers into our profit calculator, which totally automates the process of calculating Amazon's fees. So if you're selling a book for $55 and you're paying $15 for it, you know exactly what your net profit is going to be. The only thing it doesn't factor in is the nominal shipping cost, which should be less than 50 cents per book to ship to Amazon. But that's because the calculator can't know that. But everything else is factored in. So basically, you're getting almost exactly like really close to your net profit. Okay, simple as that. And the last step is to simply buy the book. That's the entire process, right? So we walked you through 10 steps, and then again, the 11th is to simply check out on Amazon and purchase the book. So let's go through these once again so you understand very clearly every single step to analyzing a book from nothing to making your purchase. Okay, so here it is. Number 1, get very clear about your standards. Number 2 is to search and visually scan the results in Zen Arbitrage for potential opportunity. Number 3, decide based on the data you see if you're going to price higher than the lowest FBA offer. Number 4 is to view competing FBA offers. Number 5 is to check out the condition and other factors involved with the cheapest copy, the copy you're going to buy. Number 6 is to check your restrictions and make sure you can sell it. Step number 7 is to check pricing history. Step number 8 is to check the sales rank history. Step number 9 is to check Bookfinder and find the cheapest copy. Step number 10 is to run all that through our profit calculator, and step number 11 is to buy the book.